Good morning, everybody. What makes us human? I can't honestly say. At first I thought, some of the great products of humanity, music, art, Indian cuisine, self-awareness, knowing what makes me, me. And then I thought language. Language, of course, that's probably the most uniquely human thing that we have. And then, unfortunately, I realized, no, language also exists in the animal world. Dogs bark, birds sing, elephants trumpet. Elephants, the jazzy animals. And then I was thinking, well, that's kind of basic and simple. And then I was thinking, do they need more language than that? Do they need to know how to say peace treaty, service bus, shampoo, hairdresser, comb, fashion? So, I then began to think, well, do they actually tell stories? Do animals tell tales? Do they have literature? Do they tell lies? And this is why I can't honestly say what makes us human, because I think that perhaps animals also tell stories for their own ends. So in this little presentation, I'm going to talk about lying. And first of all, I'm going to look at the lies that animal tells, or their deceptions. Then I'll look at the lies that we tell and why we tell lies. And finally, because this is a TEDx thing, I'm going to make this sort of advice thing, something to take away and gives us an excuse to tell lies, but not to your teachers about your homework and things like that, please. So, the first part will be about the lies that animals tell. Wittgenstein very famously said, a dog cannot tell a lie. Not only was he a great Austrian philosopher, but he could also speak dog, so that's why I'm quoting him. Right. But I'm not going to look at the lies that dogs tell. No. I'm not going to touch those chops on the kitchen table. I'm going to look at just birds and bugs and how they deceive. So I thought I would start with the one that we all know, which is the cuckoo. Is it guguk in Turkish? So the cuckoo very, very famously lays its egg in, one egg always, in the nest of smaller birds. And then the cuckoo fledgling cracks out of its shell and pushes the other little birds out of the nest, where they fall to the earth and die. And the tiny birds, who are the parents of the cuckoo, then just work their little tails off, feeding the cuckoo. And the cuckoo grows up, flies away, and this is repeated ad infinitum. A second bird is a plover, and this is a bird that lives in northern Europe. And the plover nests on the ground, and when it spots a predator nearby, it has a distracting, deceptive little sort of routine where it flies up into the air and then flies down, flutters down, kind of collapsing, and flies away from the nest. Then it flies up again, and then kind of crash lands and goes over to the side once more, drawing away the predator. So these are obviously quite clever actions, although the birds may not actually know what they're doing. Bugs. We all know that there are insects which have particular camouflage markings or scare markings. There are insects which, when you look at the back of the insect, it looks like the eyes of a predator. I didn't prepare anything for that. There are leaf insects, stick insects. If you were stick insects, I would just have disappeared there. So, for me, a more interesting one, because it's more like human deception, is a spider, the bola spider. Bola spider is fantastic. It tells a chemical lie. What it does is it produces a scent which is identical to the scent produced by a female moth. And for miles around, moths have incredibly sensitive senses of smell, And so for miles around, moths are attracted to what they think is this beautiful and kind of keen female moth. But it's the bola spider. The bola spider's lie, its chemical lie, is so powerful it doesn't need to build a web. The moths come. This is like lunch delivering itself, actually. They come, the spider catches them, it doesn't kill them, it wraps them in its silken web, and stores them for later, okay? It has this kind of pantry full of moths, up to 8 a day, which it will then kill and devour later on. Okay, so these are all, I think, fairly good ideas of animal dishonesty. And I was wondering if there are any similarities, and I think there are. The animals tell lies or they deceive in order to protect their young, and in order to get food, and in order to protect themselves from predators. And in many ways, we are similar when we tell lies. A professor of psychology at the University of Alabama, and there is a university in Alabama, Charles V. Ford, wrote a book in 1995 called Lies, 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 although you don't have to say it like that. You can say lies, lies, lies. And he found that there were 13 reasons why people tell lies, but I'm not going to tell you all of them. I've boiled these down to 3 main categories. So the first one is to help or protect ourselves. We lie to protect ourselves. The cookies? No, I didn't eat them, but I saw a raccoon earlier on. To avoid punishment. My homework, a raccoon ate it. No, there are raccoons in Istanbul now. They're immigrants. Okay? Another reason is to flatter the powerful. You're the best teacher I've ever had, Mr. Dobie. Really? Is this your first day in a school, son? And also to create or maintain prestige. Oh, in my old school, I was on all of the sports teams. Yes. And then I get this trick knee and no longer can do that. Or I caught a fish that was so big, I need you to stand here beside me and stick your arm out too. Okay, so this is creating or maintaining prestige. A second type of lie, or second reason for lying, is to help other people. There are the little white lies. No, Mr. Dobie, no one will ever notice that you seem to be losing your hair a little. Okay? Or there are lies of omission. Yes, Zechariah is a lovely child, very popular in the class, always on time, beautiful uniform. Academic performance. Beautiful uniform. And more seriously, we can lie to protect the endangered. So, for example, in Holland, during the Second World War, many Dutch citizens protected their fellow citizens, Jewish fellow citizens, from the Nazis, thereby saving many of their lives, and also many of them lost their lives. What is rarely mentioned is that the people who hid Jewish people in Holland in the Second World War, 30% of them paid for it with their lives. So that is an incredibly brave thing to do. And the third type of lying is what we normally probably think of when we're talking about lying or thinking about lying, is kind of lying to hurt other people. So there's false gossip. Yes, you kissed him. There's lying for profit. For only 2,500 euros, you can own this highly original Galata kulesi. And there's lying for power, propaganda. Okay, so we're all kind of fairly familiar with these things. It appears that lying is generally done for good purposes, for good reasons. Lying is a positive thing, apparently. And of course, in our cultures, we definitely respect liars. We laud them, we praise them, we prize them. Just to give you an example, you may have heard of Marco Polo. Marco Polo Even 1298, 700 years after he wrote his travels, we still know who he was, and yet his travels are full of amazing lies. Men with dogs' faces, and cities made of gold, and Kublai Khan's 5,000 elephants, which would mean you would need an awful lot of people just to clean up after them every morning. It seems unlikely. There was another great fabulist called George Salmanzar. This was at the beginning of the 18th century. And he claimed to be from Formosa, okay, the island which we now call Taiwan. And he claimed he had converted to Christianity, and this way he got a great deal of protection and help from the rich and powerful in Great Britain, in London. Now this is interesting. He wrote a whole book about Formosa, saying that people lived there until they were 120. They lived only on a diet of snakes. Nothing else, just snakes. And the reason that he did this was, as I said, to kind of support this lie that he was from Formosa. He was actually French. And he wrote a whole book to protect his lie. Now, those two guys, Marco Polo, they've probably never been called guys before. Those two writers, Marco Polo and George Salmanzar, were typical liars. Marco Polo told a lot of stories. He actually did go to China. He lived there for 20 years, but he kind of embellished his story. Okay, so he was kind of doing that perhaps for more prestige, just for people to say, well, yeah, that's absolutely amazing, tell us more. George Salmanzar, it was for protection. Okay, so typical reasons why humans tell lies. As I said, these books, you can still buy them, they're still in print, even though they're stuffed with lies. And this is because we do liar. Okay, there's the Nobel Prize for lying, there's the Prix Goncourt for lying, there's the Man Booker Prize for lying, there's the Orhan Kemal Edebiyat Ödülü for lying. So we do like good liars, organized, great big lies, hundreds of pages long, all untrue. Okay, now a friend of mine said, read history for facts, but fiction for the truth. Yeah, you try that, chum. I'd now like to move on to our final stage. No audible sighs of relief, I shall continue. And I'm going to look at something which is a chemical lie. It's a human lie, and it's a placebo. Okay? Not the band placebo. A placebo is a chemical lie, by which I mean you give people something that they think is medicine, which has no active ingredients in it at all. Okay? So it might be a sugar pill, or a saline solution, just an injection of slightly salted water. And they've been shown to have amazing effects if people believe that what you say they are, believe what you say are is what they are, yeah. They're especially powerful for two things. One is as painkillers. There are many tales from the Second World War where soldiers were horribly mangled in battle, and they were given placebos, salted water, and told it was morphine. And the pain stopped like that. Another example of a placebo is tranquilizers for people who are incredibly nervous, okay, or they're highly strung. You give them something, then you tell them, it might be just a glass of water, okay, with something, I don't know, bitters or something in it, and you tell them that it's a tranquilizer, they immediately calm down. They become so calm. Jan Burke, thank you for that. It was really nice. So placebos, it's the effect of something unreal on the mind because we believe it is true. And now I'm coming to the truly TEDx part of this, which is that I believe that we can tell ourselves lies, and benefit from them in the same kind of way that we can benefit from placebos. Okay, so these are my positive lies, constructive lies. And I think there are three that we can use, especially as students. As students, we have to do a great deal of work for deadlines. And I think it might be an idea to set yourself a false deadline, fake deadlines. Lie to yourself about when the job has to be done by. Okay? Lie and tell yourself that the deadline is not 6 weeks from now, but 2 weeks from now. Which means that you can prepare yourselves for that false deadline, and then after you've done it, you can relax and maybe, who knows, actually look at your work again before the real deadline, and then you can find all of the mistakes that the gremlins have inserted into your work and remove them. Okay, so you can, by doing that, you can improve the quality of your work. A second lie you can tell yourself is about the requirements of the task. If you're told that you should read 4 articles, hey, go crazy. Read 7 articles, read 9 articles. And what you will find is that what you produce will be much richer, will contain more relevant information, hopefully relevant information. And this will have huge advantages for you and for your teachers, believe me, because if your teachers have 70 papers to read, all based on the same 4 articles, there will be a huge amount of natural repetition. But if your paper contains unique, relevant information, your teacher will be incredibly happy to find what, perhaps unfairly, they think is a sign of a higher intellect. Okay? It will be more interesting for them. They will reward you with a better grade, believe me. And finally, the idea of fake importance. Lie to yourself about how important the work that you are producing is. Okay? If you attach great importance to everything that you have to do, it will inspire you to work harder. It will help you to get over the boredom of doing that extra work. Okay? But also, it will prepare you eventually for your job as a student at university, etc. So I really do believe that all of these lies that we can tell ourselves, the fake deadline, the fake importance, the fake requirements, will help us to not actually go beyond what we can do, but reach what we can do. Thank you very much.